Tossing Grenades at Windmills podcast.
This podcast is the Tossing Grenades at Windmills podcast. I'm TC Ricks, and I'm going to keep this one short. I originally intended to do an 11-part series on things that we can do to fix this country, and I have some good ideas. I know they're good ideas, but I'm going to wait until after the election to share them, because if you don't vote in this election, then none of these ideas matter, because you very well might not be allowed to do anything about them. And I want to talk about something that's bothered me for a long time, but in this election in particular, just rubs me raw. And that is people who don't vote. Now, if you're a child or a minor, then you're excused. And if you're not a citizen of the United States, then you're also excused. But if you are a citizen of the United States of at least 18 years of age, and of sound mind and sufficient body that you can roll your corpse over to vote. And I have seen decrepit people in their 90s in a walker or in a wheelchair or the blind go and vote. People condemn those who spread false information about vaccinations because of the damage it does to herd immunity, and how you are effectively killing people by proxy. But as far as I'm concerned, not voting is worse than that. There is no law that says that if there is an axe murderer climbing into my window and you see him and you don't call the cops, there's no law that holds you accountable for that. But I think any reasonable person would find that offensive and would also think that I'm totally within my rights to be upset at the person who just sat by and let the axe murderer climb through my window. I don't need to go on and on about all of the terrible things that Trump has done. You either believe him or you don't. There's a small handful of people that are kind of wishy-washy who, might not personally like Trump, but don't bother to investigate the fact that pretty much every word that comes out of his mouth is a lie. You either believe him or you don't. And if you do, then you're probably not listening to me right now. The fact of the matter is, though, that there are plenty of people who know flat out how bad Trump is, how more and more, literally every day, he is doing things that actually mimic Hitler. I'm not talking about hyperbole at this point. I'm talking about actual arguments and actual lines from the actual Hitler. And you expect me to be calm and civil while some smug, cynical son of a bitch sits back and by proxy, by doing nothing, enables a fascist to get a vote. Because the only way to counter the votes of the fascist is to vote more than the fascist, right? I mean, they're already doing voter suppression. They're already doing voter intimidation. They've already packed the courts. They've taken the Supreme Court. They've taken the House. They've taken the White House. They've taken the Senate. They've taken most of the state governments. If you are on such a high horse that you can't get up off your ass and stand in line for 1 to 2 hours to fill out a couple of dots, heck, 2 dots. If you can't actually just vote for a Democrat in the Senate or the Congress, then fuck you. But more importantly, I think the time has come that we need to take this a little bit farther. In addition to mandatory voting, like I think it should be a felony not to vote. In addition to mandatory voting, I think that as a society, we need to identify, name, and shame people who don't vote. I got into an argument on the internet with somebody who said that it was illegal to fire somebody for not voting. Yeah, well, let me respond to that, because last I checked, most employment is at will, which means your employer can fire you for any reason that they so choose. They choose to do things like personal improvement plans or other things to cover themselves from a potential wrongful termination suit. But Google what it takes to actually sue somebody. A recent family member was exposed to literally the worst boss that I have ever encountered. I have had since I was 16 years old in one form or another, either through volunteer positions or short-term contracts or long-term permanent jobs, arguably between 40 and 50 jobs since I was 16 years old. And I've known a lot of other people, and I can guarantee you that nobody I have known personally has been a worse boss than this asshole. And the fact of the matter is that as extreme as he has been, and as borderline sexist and as borderline racist as he has been, we don't have enough to actually sue this bastard. So if you expect me to believe that somebody can make racist or sexist comments without actually deliberately firing somebody for a racist or sexist reason, to the point that they make somebody so uncomfortable to quit and you can't sue them, you expect me to believe that you can't fire somebody for not voting? I beg to differ. There are laws in places like California where you can't fire somebody for their political beliefs, but I think that you could make an argument that voting isn't about a political belief. It's not. That's not about politics. That's about survival. And if I think that you're a threat to me or my family by not voting, by sitting on your ass and not doing a damn thing, I think that's a damn good reason to fire somebody. I think that's a fantastic reason to fire somebody. In fact, I think if you don't vote, you should lose your job. I think that if you don't vote, you should be unfriended by everyone you know. I think that if you don't vote, people should stop talking to you. Go on and form your own little colony in the middle of America somewhere called Don't Give a Fuckistan. But let the rest of us actually live in peace. It's bad enough having to deal with people that will literally believe any lie that comes out of Fox News. It is bad enough dealing with people who will literally do anything, I mean anything, that they are told by their leader. It is bad enough dealing with people who think that it is okay to have crazy people own guns and to go around shooting people and then turn around and say that the people who did it were Democrats. It is bad enough that I have to live in a world where the majority of my political opposition believes that Hillary Clinton ran a sex prostitution ring in a pizza basement when the place doesn't even have a basement. It is bad enough when people can call Project Veritas a journalist, when he can cut and edit the film footage to say or mean anything he wants, and then turn around and blame the Democrats for supposedly editing footage and twisting the meaning of things when people, run over people with their cars or burn Democrats alive or hit them or do whatever the fuck they want. It is bad enough that I have to live in a time and in a day and age where I have actual tiki torch wearing fascists walking the fuck around, actual brown shirts and calling themselves Proud Boys, randomly going down to the Democratic campaign party headquarters in downtown Miami. It is bad enough that I have to put up with all these things, that I have to also sit by and watch you sit on your ass and not do a thing about it, Well, pardon me if I think that you should be shunned. Pardon me if I think that there should be consequences for your actions.
This has been the Tossing Grenades at Windmills podcast. Buy my book, Have Name Will Travel, available in many markets, including at Amazon.com. Copyright 2018, Red Anvil Amalgamated, LLC.
To fight the forces of evil!